Welcome to the Things You Can't Unhear podcast. I'm your host, Maritza Barone. In this show, I will introduce you to ideas, concepts, and mindsets that will open your mind to a new world of well-being and personal life growth. Through eye-opening interviews, we elevate people in the world doing amazing things for humanity and share insights that will shift you to become the happiest, healthiest, kindest, and most compassionate version of you. Hello and welcome back to Things You Can't Unhear. I am Maritza Barone, and if it's your first time joining me on this podcast, thank you so much and welcome. If you come back time and time again, I really appreciate you. Thanks for being here. Now, on this episode, we welcome Amanda Rootsey to the show. She's the founder and director of Shine From Within, a program supporting teens and training youth mentors. She's helped thousands of teenagers and tweens develop their confidence and now teaches adults how to do the same. After a 2-year battle with cancer in her 20s, Amanda's perspective on life shifted. To recover, she and her partner lived off-grid in a shipping container for a year, and she really learned how to live gently for herself and the planet. I loved chatting to Amanda. She's one of those people that have the power to instantly calm you, and her energy is truly divine to be in. So I hope you enjoy this chat. Hello, Amanda. Thank you for joining me on Things You Can't Unhear.
Thanks for having me. I'm so thrilled to be here.
Now tell us, where are you joining us from in the world?
I am joining you from Gubby Gubby or Cubby Cubby country up in, I'm at Sunshine Beach, just south of Noosa on the Sunshine Coast.
Oh, how lovely.
Australia.
The part of the world where all Australians are trying to get to at the moment.
Everyone is coming here.
Well, how is it? How is life there at the moment for everyone?
I can see why they're coming. We're in a very privileged position at the moment. There's not too much happening in terms of lockdowns and things like that, but yeah, I'm sure that will change pretty soon once the borders open. But that hard border means that life's pretty normal here at the moment.
It's interesting. I was having a conversation our last episode actually with a medium who's traveling in an RV around the states, and she said as she moved around each state, the collective energy of each area was so different, but she had the pleasure of being able to make that decision of her being in an area, in the RV, and they pull up and decide to stay for X amount of days, but when their energy is feeling stagnant, they just pack up and move on to somewhere else. So I think that's a beautiful sentiment, to be able to do that when it's not feeling right for where you are at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like that might be easier to do in the States at the moment.
Yeah, it's definitely not easy to do right here. Can't even get to our letterboxes right now. That's okay. Well,
but I love the dream of that though, right? Like the dream of getting the van and just going right now just feels like all kinds of freedom.
Yeah, agree. Well, thank you again for joining us. You yourself also have a wonderful and fascinating story and are doing such amazing work with youngsters, especially teenagers at the moment, through your program and business Shine From Within. Why were you so drawn to work with young people from the beginning?
That's a good question. I never set out to start a business working with young people. When I finished high school, I did this personal development, like deportment. It was probably more deportment course, and learnt so much from that. Like I loved feeling more confident. I loved learning how to introduce myself, all of those things. I felt like I knew how to be a bit of an adult, and loved it and trained up with them. So all through uni, I would go into schools and teach these different workshops and really enjoyed it. But never expected it to be kind of the career path, I suppose. It wasn't until I went through my own kind of big health journey in my mid-20s that I kind of got through that period and thought, the one thing I felt really called to do was work with young people, and I really wanted to introduce them to some of the people I'd come across on this healing journey, I suppose, and really wanted to. There was so much that I wish I knew when I was a young person that I wanted to hold that space for young people, and I just feel so inspired by them too. They're so wise, they're so cool, and they're hopefully going to fix the world for us going forward. So I feel really, really lucky now to be able to work with them.
Yeah, it is a cliche.
Yeah.
They are our future though, and there's no denying that. So molding them into, wonderful beings is our future. That's our pathway. So tell us about,
it's a selfish reason.
yeah, you could say that, but you're definitely not selfish. Now you talk about this healing journey of yours and that catalyst moment in your life that made you look at things differently. Can you share with us that journey?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I was when I graduated uni, I went and wanted to travel. So I was modeling over in Europe, in Germany, in Italy, and I found this lump on my neck and kind of pushed it aside for a little bit. Didn't want to investigate what that was, but eventually I did go to the doctor and get it checked out, and it ended up being stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma, a cancer in the lymphatic system. I was 24 at the time. I felt fine. I just, I didn't believe it was really happening to me, I suppose. And so that really sparked this whole journey forward, I guess. I just tried to trust that what came into my world at that moment was what I needed to hear. And it started me on this path of going vegan, of starting to meditate, of finding all of these incredible stories of people that were healing themselves naturally. And I really felt inspired to give that a go. So I spent the next 2 years trying to treat it naturally, and then eventually also having to have chemotherapy and radiation as well, which was an incredible lesson in itself too, because I was so stubborn before that point of needing to of kind of being at the last straw and needing to then go down the conventional path. But when you're trying to do things differently to what's often expected in society, I feel like I had to be so stubborn in that moment to stick with it, and you have to believe it so wholeheartedly. And the natural stuff that I did really worked as well. Like the tumors were reducing, and I was in touch with medical staff the whole time, and was doing it really responsibly, and the type of cancer that I had was also not too aggressive. But that moment of then also having to go down the conventional path and that working too, and now being here today was it was a big moment, and going through that journey, coming out the other side, recovering from it, we kind of then went and lived off grid for a year and recuperated, my partner and I, and I was kind of coming out of all of that I just was sparked with all of these ideas of stuff that I wanted to do with young people and help them realize that they're perfect just the way that they are, and that we can do a lot to look after ourselves too, and that we've got this power to do that. And that's how Shine From Within started anyway.
I'm firstly so glad that you are recovered and you've come through the other side of that diagnosis. I'm sure it must have been completely frightening and just startling to find out at 24 that you have such a serious illness. And, being able to make that decision yourself at 24 to say, I'm going to go down this pathway that aligns with my belief system and really want to try this natural way of healing, that's commendable that you did that and really gave that a red hot crack. Do you feel as though the mixture of treatments between, traditional medicine and natural healing really helped you to heal and come out the other side?
Yeah, I do, definitely. And I think it is just so important that we tune into what feels right for us and recognize that everyone's so different. I've had 2 girlfriends that have passed from cancer in the last few years as well, and one of them did the opposite. She tried all of the conventional stuff that she could, and it didn't work for her. And so then she went down the natural path, and that was the right path for her in that moment. And then eventually didn't make it anyway. So I think there's so much merit in combining it all and picking and choosing what feels right for you, as well as seeking out experts in all the places, and then trying to do what feels right, as well as be flexible enough to change paths when you need to as well.
Absolutely. Well, I know you mentioned also that, post-treatment, yourself and your partner went off grid to recover. And not only, I suppose, did you have to recover, but I'm sure he would have had to recover from the trauma of it all as well. How was that experience, just removing yourself from society? And where did you go? Tell us the details.
Yeah, I feel like it took my partner longer to recover, really. And looking back, he was just so on for that whole 2 years. He dropped everything. He sold his place so that he could just focus on looking after me. And he was so upbeat and positive for me that whole time. So it took so much out of him. That then going and hiding away was the exact best thing that we needed at that time. We actually, when we realized that I had to do the chemotherapy and the radiation and that sort of stuff, we had to move to Brisbane really quickly. We ended up getting a caravan and putting it at the back of a meditation centre, so that for that period of time, the 6 to 12 months that I was going to hospital constantly or in hospital, we had this lovely little retreat to come back to in between sessions that didn't cost a lot of money, that didn't take a lot of looking after. And we realized, and when he first suggested it to me, I remember thinking, I don't know that I want to live in a caravan during this time, but that simplicity really helped us get through that moment. So at the end of it all, we moved the caravan up onto a block of land that we found on Gumtree for $50 a week, a couple of acres in the hinterland of the Sunshine Coast. And we just stayed there for about a year, and eventually swapped the caravan for a container cabin and built all these. I think we had 17 veggie beds in the end, and some big ponds and fruit trees, and just, I think we had one solar panel, a little tank to gather our water. So we were so connected to nature, because everything, the power was coming from the sun, the rain was coming, the water was coming from the rain. We were growing all our own food, and it was just what we needed for that period of time.
I think that sounds like a dream for so many people right now, especially with the current situation the world is in, and the noise and the change, and like that energy I was talking about earlier, just retreating right now. And it's almost like, I'll stay away until everyone settles down, and then I'll come back once the dust is settled. Yes. So
absolutely.
It does. It sounds like an incredible experience, and something that probably would have been exactly what you needed. What do you think would have been, looking back at those 2 years, what do you think was your biggest learning moment? Your biggest sort of aha moment that really sort of made you change the way you saw things?
I think the going vegan and the starting my spiritual practice, meditation practice, were the biggest things that have changed my life in ways that are still very much with me now. They were both things that before I was sick, I was like, I kind of get why people might go down that path, but I still really love cheese, or I'm not sure that I really want to commit to spiritual practice too much. It's just something that I can see is kind of nice. But getting sick and being in that situation where there were lots of times when I wasn't sure if I would survive through the night at times, it really put things in perspective, and being able to live in a way that felt really gentle and compassionate and wasn't taking more life and taking more of a toll on the world around me became really important. And thinking about how I wanted to connect with what else is there, I guess, past this kind of world, this physical world, became really important as well. And the things that are probably yeah, I might not have gone down that path if I hadn't got sick. So I feel really grateful for those lessons.
Well, you're one of those really lovely souls. I've been feeling really empathetic the last few weeks. Well, I'm a very empathetic person, but I can really feel you, your beauty of your soul. Like you're talking to me, and I can feel that gentleness of who you are already, and it feels really nice to be in your presence.
Thank you. Should be the nicest thing anyone's ever said.
Oh, that's
Thank you.
right. Now I'm sure these young teens. Is it predominantly girls that you work with? Teenage girls?
Yeah, girls, those who identify as girls, non-binary. We've had a boy join our online academy recently, actually, a 12-year-old boy from the US. So
Yep.
I'm trying to move away as much as possible, just from using gendered language, really, because a lot of the young people that I attract tend to be girls. But yeah, just challenging myself a little bit to see if I can just stop using the language and see if it just opens it up for other people that might be interested as well.
Yeah, I resonate with that too. I've got a company called Conscious Conversations, and when we were putting our sort of target market together, I was strongly talking to my business partners and strongly suggesting that we keep it open to whoever is gravitating towards it, because it's, cutting 50% of the population off isn't the way things are run these days. It's just not, it's not the way that I wanted to operate. So even if only 5% of men turn up, or 3% or 10%, whatever it is, it's those who need to be there will be there, and those who don't won't. So what I was going to say earlier is that I'm sure these teens and these tweens and these young humans would get so much out of your experience and what you've learned. Tell me about Shine From Within, what you teach, and how you engage these youngsters.
Yeah, it's changed a lot over the years. It started in 2012, and it started with holiday programs, like week-long holiday programs where we would cover all sorts of wellbeing topics, from nutritional eating to going and doing yoga on the beach, to job interview skills, to skincare and makeup and that kind of fun stuff as well. But also values and strengths, and really tapping into who they are and who they'd like to become as humans. And I've always loved the collaborative aspect of Shine From Within, just bringing in lots of other people that they can connect with too. I'm also mindful that I am pretty gentle and introverted, and that can get boring if you're just kind of hanging with me for a whole week, especially for young people. So I try to bring in different energies as well. But these days it's mostly online now as well. So we have the online academy where we support teens regularly. We've got a lovely little group that come along to weekly check-ins, co-study sessions, co-art sessions, monthly trust circles. So it's a lot more about holding the space for them to just feel heard and talk about what's happening in their world and support each other more than teaching. But then they also ask for different topics that they'd like to learn more about. So we have these different live classes each month as well, across themes of activism, life skills, study skills, creativity, movement and well-being. So they ask for stuff that I think is really random at times, and think I would never want to, I wouldn't have thought to set up a class for that, but they love it. So yeah, in the last few weeks we've had classes on things like self-defense, bullet journaling. They want a class on decoding dreams next.
That's cool.
Busting exam stress, all sorts of stuff. So that's the stuff we do with teens. And then we also run a youth mentor training. That's the main part of the business these days, actually, is supporting adults that want to work with young people and helping them put together programs that align with their experiences and their values and what the young people in their communities might need, and helping them build a business doing that as well. So we've got hundreds of mentors now all over the world, putting together these incredible programs for teens in their
That's
communities,
brilliant.
which is really cool.
Yeah, that's brilliant. What do you think it is about, a young mind? I mean, I've got a 12-year-old at the moment, and I can see her trying to navigate, coming out of being a girl and going into being a teenager, and the female body is changing and the form is changing and the hormones are everywhere and the mood swings, and just coming into herself and trying to find, purpose and a place where she feels safe within herself. Like, I'm seeing all of these things, and you must see it a lot with your beautiful people that come through. And what are some stories that you can share with us, or what do you find common within sort of that age group that needs nurturing, do you think?
Yeah, there's so much going on, and they're really battling between wanting to still be really nurtured and hold on to their own childlike stuff, as well as really wanting to bust out and have their independence and be around their peers and value that dynamic more, as well as they're getting a little bit older too. So yeah, there's so much going on, and there's so much going on obviously psychologically as well. One thing that I was just reading again before we chatted actually was this concept about a guy called Adam Fletcher, who's an expert in youth engagement, and he talks about how quite often we see young people, and especially that tween teen age, as we can see them as not necessarily whole people. Like, we see them, every adult in their life will see them with a particular lens, of course, and might only see that little snippet of them. So like a school teacher will see them as the student, a sports coach will see them just as a part of the team, a police officer might see them as a potential delinquent or someone that might need rescuing, but that we don't necessarily always see them as whole beings and like these sovereign beings already. Even though they're still developing, they're still fully whole people that can start to make those decisions for themselves and start to explore. And it's such an interesting time, and to be going through it during this time as well, when there's so much happening in the world, is so challenging. Like the young people that are in our online academy, a lot of them are in Melbourne, and they were drawn to it to have that community while being schooled at home. And one of them was saying the other day that she feels like she's missed grade 9 and grade 10. She's gone from grade 8 and now she's going into grade 11 and didn't quite get all of those experiences, and to be missing out on graduations and formals and stuff like that. There's such key moments in life that they're having to miss. And so for me, I always show up to these calls with them thinking, oh gosh, I hope they're okay. Like the day that there was an earthquake in Melbourne as well, on top of everything else, it's like, gosh, they just must be so stressed out and they must have just lost it. And I got on the call with them and they were laughing. They're like, oh yeah, did you feel the earthquake? Like they're so resilient as well. These young people, that they can get through things so well. Like, I'm excited to be honest, think about them.
That 30 seconds of that earthquake was almost like a welcome relief to stop thinking about COVID. 30 seconds. There was something else to think about and something else to talk about. And it was like, okay, that was frightening, but it was a welcome little break for a couple of minutes.
We're all safe.
That's right. We're all here. We're all safe to tell the story. No, it's definitely been hard for teens and different age groups. I know it's, I really feel for the younger generation experiencing lockdown. It's such an unnatural way for us to live. But you're right. The resilience I've seen with my kids and their friends and other kids that I know, my sister's children, and they're pretty amazing, and they bounce back a lot of the time much better than us adults do. I think our trauma lasts a lot longer when we're adults for some reason. So you're very lucky to be working with these beautiful young people. You do have a podcast of your own that I'd love to hear more about, and it's a wonderful resource as well for young people to listen in and hone in on all of the messages in that. Can you tell us all about it?
Yeah, it's called the Youth Mentor Podcast. It's it's for anyone who has young people in their life, really. Lots of interviews with psychologists and youth mentors, coaches, teachers, anyone who has who's an expert in young people. So it's great for parents, educators, mentors. There's so much to talk about when it comes to young people that it's really nice to be able to have those conversations and connect with others that are passionate about working with you too.
Yeah, a great resource if you've got a child around that age, or for them to even listen to, I think is excellent. To just have that press play and take a break from anything else that's going on in their lives and just learn something that may resonate with what they're going through at the current time. If you had a choice, if you were able to tell your teenage self something now, being through what you've been through and your experiences, what would you tell your 12-year-old self or your 13-year-old self that you didn't know then, that you would have wished you may have known?
Yeah, I would have said, I don't have to think about this one because I feel like it's the whole reason why I started Shine From Within probably as well. I would tell my 12 or 13-year-old self that they are perfect just as they are, that they don't need to impress anyone else. They've got all this power within them. To really take the time to hone in on that and tap into what that might be for you. I always remember when I first got diagnosed, I picked up that book by Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life.
Yes. Yes, I sure have. Yeah.
And she talks in that book. She talks about how blood cancers like lymphoma can come from using up so much of your blood trying to please everybody else that you literally have no healthy blood left in your body. You're just so depleted from doing too much. And that really resonated for me, I think. So I would tell my younger self that she's okay just as she is. She doesn't have to be extroverted or it doesn't have to try to be like anyone else.
I love that so much. I love it because I'm watching, that age group right now. And I know there's so much judgment on self, but judgment from others that they feel is being directed their way, and changes within their own bodies that, they're dealing with. And why don't I look like that? And why doesn't she look like me? It's that self-talk that we need to get a grasp on from that age would make us much happier adults down the track. Because what I'm noticing with people are, in my circle, is that you get to a certain age and then you realize, I should never have thought about, I can't speak about myself badly like that. That's why are we speaking? You don't even speak to anyone else as badly as you speak to yourself with your own self-talks most of the time. So, learning not to do that from day dot is a great tool to have. Yeah. Now, I've loved this conversation. And as I said earlier, I've absolutely loved your energy and the gentleness that comes from you. You've definitely, I'm one of those really energetic, quiet type people, and you've sort of really brought me down to a lovely level. So thank you for sharing your time with us today. I did want to ask you one more question, because earlier I shared your story before we hit record, actually, as to why I named this podcast Things You Can't Unhear, because I had an experience where I heard something and I couldn't unhear it after I heard it. And I wanted to have that opportunity for others to tell and share their moments of things they couldn't unhear. So is there something that you have heard or seen, or obviously experienced, but is there something that you've heard or read even that you can't unhear and that you changed the course of your life from hearing it?
Actually, just the other day, hearing that there are 1.2 billion teens in the world right now is pretty massive to hear, and really lit a fire under me to make sure that they've all got a mentor in their life. But personally, it always comes back to the gentle living stuff, the veganism and the meditation practice.
Why is the gentle living thing so important to you and beneficial to you?
I think for a couple of reasons. To me, it's kind of gentle on the planet and the other beings around us. So that just feels good. Just feels nice. But it's also probably because I am quite introverted and possibly highly sensitive and that kind of stuff. And so I think it's probably also about just aligning with what feels natural to me as well, rather than it necessarily being something I think everyone should try to do or things like that. But yeah, for me, it's about being gentle on ourselves. So even the way that I work, the way that I live, I try to make sure that there's lots of rest and that it's sustainable for me, because as you know, it's a lot to run a business, of course. So trying to do that gently, that gently. And I used to run, or I also run a gentle business mastermind with a couple of friends too, and that thought around just trying to find ways to do business that is sustainable, that is moving away from the capitalist world that we're in, even though we're still in it and have to be in it. Like, how can we break away and unlearn some of those things that have been drilled into us for so long about how productive we need to be, and our worth being so tied to what we achieve and the output that we're putting out into the world. You know, I'm trying to unpack some of that stuff and just live a little bit more gently.
Well, that's definitely a wonderful way to live. I think everyone's so busy and hectic and burnt out and stressed, and you name it. The mental health toll at the moment has been full on, and that was even prior to COVID. So I think we all need to just take an opportunity to live a little more gently for ourselves and the planet. Yeah. So thank you so much for sharing that. It's been such a beautiful chat. Amanda, can you tell us where we can find you if we want to learn more about your courses, your podcast, and all of the amazing things that you're offering?
Yeah, sure. You can head to shinefromwithin.com.au for all of our stuff. Yeah, the podcast. We've got a book out with Hay House as well, Shine From Within, a Teen Girl's Guide to Life. The school curriculum, it's all there at Shine From Within. And you can find me, I probably spend the most time on Instagram at Shine From Within HQ or at Amanda Rootsey.
Beautiful. I think I have two little cherubs that may be signing up to Shine From Within coming your way. So thank you again, Amanda. It's been my absolute pleasure to welcome you to Things You Can't Unhear. Thank you for listening to the Things You Can't Unhear podcast. I'd love to keep the conversation going. Let us know what you thought of this episode, and if something really profound came up for you that you want to share, let's talk about it. You can find me on Instagram at Things You Can't Unhear, or on my personal page at Maritza_Barone. And if someone you know will benefit from something that was said in this show, make sure you share it with them too. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and keep up to date with what's next. And if you can spare a few seconds, please rate and review the show on iTunes, just so other people can find us more easily and quickly. And as always, my friends, be happy, be healthy, be conscious, and be kind.